Welcome to the Tricord Advisors podcast. This is where we answer your questions to help you get excited about your finances. This is Randy Barkley, and I'm Jeremiah Lee. We're both certified financial planners, and I'm also a California licensed attorney.
One of the things that frustrates me as a financial planner is when a client doesn't do the things that they know they need to do. And I had a conversation earlier this week, and the wife just said, well, what about the estate plan? And I said, well, do you have documents? Oh, yeah, we got the document, but the husband couldn't find it. But bottom line is they need to get their estate plan in place. And the wife just said, listen, set the appointment. We'll come in. We'll meet with Jeremiah, and work through and get it done. And I said, it needs to get done. I said, my comment to people is that you don't wake up in the morning and get excited about, oh, I got to finish my estate plan documents, right? So
you get terrified.
We have to kind of prod them a little bit.
That's right.
This is really important.
But the people that get terrified that have a health scare and realize had something happen, an accident or something like that, they realize had something happened, this would have been a mess for the surviving spouse, a mess for the next generation.
Right.
You're right. Estate planning is not fun. I'm the first one to admit, but I think people inflate it on a regular basis, inflate it to be this bigger deal than what it really is. Right. And there's a lot of I think myths that are out there that you're going to have to pay these massive taxes, or it's really complex documents. I mean, me speaking from the attorney side who write these all the time, I think they're normal documents, but I get that it's a different language. But sitting down with an attorney, walking through the process, and moving, judiciously through getting this done, in my mind, is the best. There's a lot of folks, like you said, that start it and then just get bogged down because they don't want to read it. They don't want to think about it.
And as a wealth manager, as our firm, as we deal with people, obviously it encompasses the estate planning side of it. And you're meeting with clients directly and either reviewing the documents that they have right now and amending where necessary, or creating a brand new trust or wills or whatever. Yeah. It's so important to have up-to-date documents.
Oh, and I think there's a massive difference between passing away with nothing in place,
right,
and then passing away even with something, a will and a trust. That's 80% of the value is there in the administration afterwards. But then that last bit of having it up to date is what really allows you to express the legacy, the purpose, the ease for the next generation. I mean, we're teasing the other day that really it should be the kids of folks who are paying for the trust to get the trust done, because
they're getting the biggest benefit.
They're the benefit. Right? Yeah, we've had so many clients who their parents pass away who are not our clients, and we walk into this and they have this tangled web of where all the assets were held, what was titled appropriately, what wasn't. On the flip side, we've had clients who their parents did do good estate planning, and I'll say it's a breeze. It's always difficult to administer someone's life, administer their estate, and deal with the emotions of that. Right. However, it is so massively easier if they have good estate planning in place.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think you're looking at what we do as a firm, and we don't just do investing because that's just one part of what we do, but estate planning is another sleeve. It's another element that we do. And with you being in the firm, it allows the clients to be able to sit down and talk with you because you're an attorney.
Yep.
And you have a lot of experience in estate planning and contract law. So it's really good that they can bounce ideas off. And what's really nice is that they can come up and bring in these what they perceive are very complex issues, and you're able to solve them and put them into a mode that will be smooth for them should they have either illness or death.
Yeah. And a lot of folks, I find they think of this as one day when I die, it's just going to affect my kids. Right. My kids get it anyways. Well, one, there's the aspect of California law. It has a certain structure of how things are distributed. That may or may not line up with what people want. But even more important than that, taking care of one's spouse and even taking care of yourself if something tragic were to happen, but you haven't passed away.
Right.
You're simply unable to do some of the things you normally do. The estate planning structure deals with all that. It deals with all the things while you're still alive. And in the event there's a catastrophe or an accident, there's some safeguards in place that allow you to administer others on your behalf to administer while you're alive, and when you pass away to take care of your spouse. So
let's talk about a couple things that are, what we don't talk about a lot with clients, but digital assets. I think it's really important. I mean, so many of us have, websites. We have our PIN, our password, all that stuff. And if you die without disclosing that, or not telling where that information is at, your beneficiaries, your heirs will not be able to get to those.
Yeah, it's a real interesting world we're in because you have people who are, they have Instagram accounts, they have eBay accounts, where they're actively running businesses that are fully online based. And how do you transition those? And things like, Facebook or other ones, they have some protocols of what do you do? How do you get into a loved one's items? But there's a number of folks we've run into that just day one, they don't have access to anything.
Right.
And some don't even know where the accounts are. So there's the financial, getting your life in order, but the digital assets almost having a similar inventory, as you would say, here's the different bank accounts I have. Here's where my money is. But to say, here's the different online personas I have that could have value, and here's how you access
Right.
them, and here's how you would connect to them. So yeah, including digital assets in our age is really important. Even things, my wife knows the password of my phone, but we had a number of spouses, when the one passes away, their only access to certain bank accounts is through their spouse's phone.
Yeah, I mean, for my wife and I, we have a what I call the long password, the key, right? And that gets us into a lot of things. And we provide a vault. We provide a means by which clients can put information
For our clients, yeah.
For our clients that's secure. But you better have a key, or else we can't even get into it, because you can identify as secure and what things you want to share. But that's really important that you have the ability to do that. So
yeah, that's right. The other thing I think that comes up a lot is people will just procrastinate. They put this off. And that's what we've been talking about initially, is they just put it off. But I've had a number of clients that come in and say, we need this by this week because we're going on a trip. And they just all of a sudden something flipped. Yeah, that they say this has to get done. We can't go on this trip until we have this in place. And it becomes a burden, because then they're pounding through some of these real questions. Who would you want to make a healthcare choice for you if that was needed? For some people it's just obvious. They name my daughter, name whomever. Others, they want to think about it, but when they have that pressure, and there's an ability for me. I can't turn things in a day.
Right.
It takes a little bit of time to draft this stuff, and so I think procrastinating is a big one. Just to get it done when the time is nice. When just get it done now. Get it done so that when those events come up, you go on your trip and you don't have that added stress.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that people have a misunderstanding about what goes into the trust. So if you establish an estate planner, develop a trust, what goes in? They think, well, they'll say, well, I have a trust. That's in the trust, right?
Yeah. A lot of people magically think if you've signed the trust documents,
everything just is there.
Then it magically takes care of all of it. And that's part of what, when we talk about wealth management, it's looking at every aspect of someone's life. And so a trust I tell people, it's like a treasure box. It controls what you put in it. And so investment accounts, bank accounts, homes, real estate, land, you can put all that stuff into a trust, and you should. That's part of that trust funding process. As soon as you make this treasure box, you got to put some stuff in it, and attorneys walk you through that. However, we've had some people who come in with it, I would call an empty trust, an empty treasure box.
They've got the chest, right?
Yep.
But they don't have anything.
They never put their house in it, or they at one point put a house in, they've since moved.
They
refinance. They never put that house back in. So that's part of not just having, step one is get your estate planning done. Step two is having a relationship, an ongoing relationship with advisors, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a financial planner like what we do, or an investment advisor, is to keep that stuff updated. And when you buy a new house, for someone in the room to say, hey, does this need to go in the trust? And the answer is yes, it does, and to update that.
I mean, that's the advantage of our firm, because we deal with those issues. Yeah. So we know the client, we know where the assets are at, we know where the income is at, we know, our goal is to know the client well enough that we can give them advice about it, but also to designate which assets need to be in the trust and which assets don't need to be in the trust. What assets don't need to be in the trust?
So in California, we have some with the DMV, that often with the DMV, if you have a vehicle, it doesn't have to get into the trust. Right. We have a car collection, often we would, but the way California law works is that vehicles themselves won't trigger probate. And so if you have a number of vehicles that are outside, the DMV has a good process when you pass away. They in themselves won't trigger probate. And probate's a good thing, just to take a note here. In recent law, if you have $160,000 in California out of a trust, just normal in your estate, that's going to trigger you to go through probate. So if you have a cash account, a bank account with 180,000, and say, that's going to send you into probate. But if you have put things in a trust, your real estate, your investment accounts, your cash accounts, and everything out of that trust is less than that number, then there's a real small estate affidavit you can do that helps you skip probate. For a lot of folks, that's what they're looking to do, is not have to take their family and all their assets through probate.
So what assets typically you don't put in a trust, though?
So vehicles in California, you typically don't do any sort of retirement assets. So
like my IRA,
your IRA, your Roth IRA, your 401k from work, all of those, they have what's called beneficiary designations. So you need to list who those go to, but you do that with the account custodian. You don't do that necessarily in your trust. There's some situations where we'll have people that will send their retirement accounts into their trust on purpose.
Is that good thing to do?
Your favorite answer here. It depends. It depends on what you were trying to structure. If someone had, say, a special needs child that they anticipated that they were going to live their life and then pass away, and then all their funds, including their retirement funds, needed to be used for that special needs child for the rest of that special needs child's life, then it probably makes sense to send all those funds into the trust, let the trust control it.
But that wouldn't be necessarily a normal, what I
That would
call
not be normal.
standard trust. I mean, you would have to have very specific.
Yeah, and you have to be in a situation where you had someone that you're going to care for in that way, a special needs type situation. But the normal vanilla family, often their 401k, say, will go to their spouse. And if
Right.
when their spouse passes away, it goes to their kids. That's a very normal structure, and it goes outside of the trust, next to the trust. And that doesn't trigger probate. Those aren't probate related assets.
But again, you got to be cognitive of how a trust is taxed. The trust is taxed differently than if you have the assets in your own personal.
Yeah, this is a trust tax is a big question that people just get confused on a regular
Right.
basis. The first one that people think is that when they pass away, that 40% or so of their assets are just going to get taxed. They're just going to lose it. They're just going to go to the government. That's going to happen for everybody. And that happens for very large estates once you get past the exemptions.
And the exemption
The
is
exemption currently is roughly 13 million per person.
per person.
So if you're a married couple, then your exemptions will cover 26 million roughly of your estate. So if your estate is less than 26 million, you're not going to have to pay estate taxes.
Right.
And so it's only for folks that blow past that 26 million, or if you're single, 13 million roughly. When you get past that, now that marginal amount past that, you're going to have estate
Right.
taxes. So the exciting estate planning, the kind that I usually do when I was a bit larger law firm, is for folks that are in that bracket. They have a number of strategies and ideas that would be done to plan a large estate. But for the majority of people, it's not even on the table. So
well, let's take a pause right now, because we can come back
Yeah.
and talk about what I consider more complex
Yep.
For wealthier types of clients. So we'll be right back.